So welcome everyone to this session. So I hope you're all enjoying the Bigger, Better, Stronger event. So I'm really excited to be joined by Luther Burrell. So Luther is a professional rugby union player and he's currently playing for Newcastle Falcons. So we're going to find out a little bit about his career up to this point, any top tips for young people considering a career in sport and thinking about kind of mental health and well-being as well. But I suppose we should probably start off kind of at the beginning. We'll start nice and simple. So how did you first get into rugby?
Well, thanks for having me first and foremost, Jessica. And I hope anything that I say is taken on board. I mean, I'm sure we'll uncover the majority of my career and the adversity that I've been through and the highs and lows of being a professional rugby player. So yeah, thanks for that. And how did I first get into it? Well, it was actually a sports day at my junior school. I was into all sports. I was obviously quite a big lad at school, and it was our sports day. And I was basically doing a couple of the events, and one of my friends at school's dad was actually a rugby coach, and he saw me. Must be doing the egg and spoon race or whatever, and he thought, "Oh, well, this fella can run pretty well with an egg in his hand." So he went to my parents and just asked them if they'd be up for taking me down to the local rugby club to join in with the training. And straight away they said, "Yeah, I think he'd really enjoy it." I think I was 8 or 9 at the time, and it really just transpired from there. So I went down to the local club. And at that time, it was only sort of touch rugby. And as soon as I'd finished that first training session, I remember going to my mum saying, "Mum, do you think I can do this as a job?" She said, "Yeah, absolutely. As long as you work hard and you look after yourself, then there'd be no reason why not." So from the age of 8, 9 years old, I kind of knew really what I wanted to do in life, which was great. I thought at the time, I'd been a kid, I was just a typical kid. I loved tractors, I loved cars, I loved building stuff. And I thought, I'll be a mechanic or a builder or something like that, as you do when you're a child. And just from that moment on, I was just fixated on playing rugby and really trying to learn about it and watch it. And I had my team at the time, which was Sale Sharks, I supported, and it was Wigan Warriors for the rugby league side, and that's really how it really transpired from an egg and spoon race in my my school sports day.
Really impressive. I feel like anyone who watched me in an egg and spoon race would have been mortified. Absolutely. Like, I have no hand-eye coordination, so
I'll tell you what I was very bad at was the sack race. We jump in the sacks. I was just way too big for this sack, so obviously I just kept falling over every time I would step in it. So it just wasn't for me. I think I actually put my foot through the end of it.
Yeah, I feel like I can't think of anything I was good at sports day. I used to swim when I was in kind of going through school and stuff, and obviously that was never in a sports day, so I was just but yeah, that's really interesting though, and really interesting, I think, to hear that you kind of decided at such a young age that you were going to pursue this as a career. And I think that's really inspiring and really nice to kind of hear, and obviously it shows you've loved the sport for a very long time, which is great. So I know you mentioned a little bit about kind of the different teams that you've played for, and a little bit about that. Could you maybe just tell us a bit about that journey? So from that child who did the egg and spoon race and decided it was going to be your career to kind of where you are now, how has that journey gone?
Yeah, okay. So my first club, so my friend's dad, he was a coach at Huddersfield, Lockwood Park it was, and that was rugby union based. And at school we would play rugby league. And so from a young age, I was playing rugby league at school. Maybe that was a Thursday or a Friday afternoon after school. We'd have our little games against each other, which then transpired into playing other schools when you went to high school, etc. So I'd say from the age of maybe 10 to 15, 16, I was playing the union on a Sunday. And if I wasn't playing rugby league at school, I would play rugby league for another club on Saturday. And this really just mapped out really what path I wanted to go down, because obviously with the different codes, being a northern boy, I'm from Huddersfield, rugby league was predominantly the sport played, and at the time it was a massive game, but all my friends were playing rugby union, so I was really confused at the time of which path I wanted to go down. It wasn't until I was sort of 16 years old that I was playing rugby at Lockwood Park. I was making good strides. I was playing really well for my local club. I was playing really well for my rugby league club, but I really wanted to go down this rugby union route. And as Newcastle do, Leeds at the time had a player development scheme. It was called the Elite Player Development Program, and they came to Huddersfield to do a training session, and the coach came down to watch a few of our games, and I didn't actually get picked up, and I was really confused, and I went home really sad to my mum. Like, you know, I was playing really well, and I didn't get noticed, and some of them was like, "Wow, you leave it with me." And that was it for maybe a week. And my mum then packed me in the car. She said, "Right, I'm going over to Leeds." I said, "You joking?" She said, No, we're going to get your stuff ready. You know, bring your kit and your boots just in case. But yeah, we're going over to Leeds now. I said, "How have you done that?" She said, "I sent him an email." I said, "What? What do you mean?" She said, "Yeah, I sent him an email saying it's not right that you overlooked my son. He's done this, he's done that, and he should be given another opportunity, and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "No way!" I was like, "Mum, no, you can't do that." She said, "Well, tough, I have, and we're going over there." So off we went, and I said, "Right, okay." I said, "Well, finish your school term, and you can come on summer camp with us, and we'll see how you get on." Off I go on summer camp to Leeds, which was hell, by the way, because it's my first time I'd ever done any sort of like real fitness training for rugby. And like I said, I was a bigger guy then, you know, still carrying my little puppy fat from being a child. And off I went, and a couple of the coaches there I could see were just, "Well, I don't really think this guy's going to make it." But Stuart actually just really saw something in me. So he took a punt on me from a young age, and from that age of 16 to 18, I was really, really put through my paces, and I developed really quick. And then at 18, I signed my first sort of professional contract. You know, throughout this period, I was trying to do, you know, my college and rugby balance. You know, so I managed to finish my college exams, and that was it. I was moved into a house at 18 with some of the other academy players there in Leeds, which was fun. It's very fun.
I
You
can
can imagine living in Leeds. And these guys were actually they were all studying at university, but I just didn't take that option. I was just like, you know, I'm not gonna do the studying. I'm gonna actually focus on my rugby, which actually worked out to be very beneficial for me, because I accelerated very quick, and you know, the rest of that house, you know, now don't play rugby. You know, so in terms of short term, it worked out very beneficial. But you know, now I'm at a certain age where I'm thinking, you know, do I actually want to take that up again now? Do I want to look at my studies? Do I want to do an open university? You know, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I'd say, yeah. So my first professional contract was, like I say, 18 years old. I really made my decision to play rugby union when I was, you know, 19.
Amazing. It's really, really nice for students to hear that it's not all kind of a straight line when you're in a career of any kind. And I think particularly when you play sport as a job, I think it's really kind of refreshing to hear that it's not you make this decision when you're 16 or whatever, And then that will completely determine the rest of your life and the pathway that you have to go down. Like you were saying, exploring options around university and doing things like that. You don't have to do that when you are 18. You can do that kind of later on. But I think that's really kind of nice for students to hear. I know obviously you mentioned there about rugby union. And I know recently, I know that you'd made the switch from rugby union to rugby league and kind of back again during lockdown. Was that a difficult decision to make?
From that age of being 19 and deciding that I'm going to play rugby union, it wasn't all, smooth sailing. I had the sort of little injuries down the line. I had to go out on loan to different clubs. Is this going to be my life? Am I just going to be this guy that comes off the bench, is in and out of the team? And then, strangely enough, Northampton came knocking at the door, and I was just thinking, wow, so this is one of the biggest teams in Europe now. I just can't turn this down. But I got like real bad anxiety because I've got a 2-year deal at Sale, and it's like, how do I handle this situation? But thankfully, obviously, I was with good management at the time, and this opportunity came up, and we said, look, we can't turn it down. So I signed up with Northampton, and at the end of that year, I went down to Northampton, and that was it. I just literally just skyrocketed. My career just went boom within 1 year. And that is how quick things can change in sport, from not knowing where you stand, doubting your ability, questioning whether you still want to do this at some periods. I go to Northampton. Jim Mallander just says it how it is to me. He was actually from Halifax, so he's a good Northern boy. We got on really well. And he said to me, "Look, we're gonna develop you. We're gonna bring you in, and you're gonna feature for us. We don't want you playing for the reserves. We want you, our front line centre. You've got all the attributes. You just need to do this, that, and the other." And at the end of that season, we got to the club's first ever Premiership final. I was thinking, wow, like I'm in a Premiership final. Like, this is amazing. I'm 24 years old. I'm in a Premiership final. Like, wow, I'm starting against Leicester Tigers, who, were at that point one of the biggest teams and most successful teams in Europe. So, unfortunately, we lost that final. But that summer, I then go on tour to Argentina with England, which again was just like, this is crazy. So I go to a Premiership final. I've gone on tour with England, and 12 months ago, I was questioning my ability and if I still wanted to play this game, and that was it. The following season, so it would be in 2013-14, I played my first Six Nations tournament, made my debut for England in France that February. At the end of that season, got to the Premiership final for the second time in the club's history, and we won. And I'm just like, wow, like, when is this? This mustn't be real. Like how has this happened to me? Like, boy from Huddersfield. I think I'm the only one to have ever represented my country from Huddersfield. It was like the whole of the town was in Twickenham Stadium for that debut. It was just such an amazing experience. And then it just skyrocketed. So just to fast forward that time, to me going to then having this opportunity to go to Warrington. I've been at Northampton now for 8 years. What do I want to do? At that point, I had a partner that was from the north, and I had a lot of things to consider, not just myself. So I took the gamble. I thought, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to add this to my rugby CV. I think it'd be beneficial for not just myself, but get my family back up north, and kind of be close to my friends that I left, maybe 10 years ago. So I did, and it didn't really work out as I would have liked. I didn't get the opportunity to play in rugby league I would have liked. So, you know, I had some more adversity, which I've kind of fast forwarded through the adversity that I had throughout my England career. You know, missing out on 2015 World Cup, which I'm sure a lot of people will have heard about at that period. But again, I'm back in rugby league. I've played maybe 8 Super League games. I've got that on my rugby CV. I'm not featured enough. I'm not really happy. I'm a rugby player. I feel I've been put on this earth to play rugby, and I'm not playing rugby as often as I would like. So what do? We're in the middle of a lockdown crisis, and I'm so unhappy with where I am. I've put so much effort into the years, you know, previous, that I felt I needed to, you know, come out of this little bit of a rut that I was in, and I needed to get back to enjoying waking up in the morning, going to training, and look forward to the excitement of playing on the weekend, because I wasn't getting that. And ultimately, as a rugby player, that's what you do, you know. Yeah. You're paid to go out there on a weekend and play. I was at that point being paid just to be a professional trainer in rugby league because I wasn't getting any game time. So although I was really fit, I was just not happy at all. So again, it was a tough decision for me because I'm a very proud guy. I'm a proud athlete first and foremost, and I don't want to ever, you know, cut something short. The external factors were out of my control. You know, I was ticking every single box and more, but still it wasn't working out for me. So I took the opportunity, and don't get me wrong, this was again very worrying. Well, not worrying, but it was a very nerve-wracking time because we're in the middle of a crisis. You know, there's no fans coming in, there's no money coming in from any of the clubs. But I just needed to get out. I needed to, you know, figure out what was going to be the next chapter for me and hope that, you know, a club would come in for me.
Yeah.
Because I was so unhappy where I was, I actually thought nobody would come in for me. As if I'd forgotten my career and what I'd actually done and achieved. Do you know what I mean? So I did it. I managed to pluck up the courage, and you know, I managed to terminate my contract with Warrington, which was obviously difficult. And as soon as that got released, you know, within 24 hours, I had, like, you know, 4 clubs ringing saying, "Luke, we're interested. You know, what are your thoughts?" And I was just like, yes. Yes. I was like panic over. I was like, this is amazing. Because I just thought, I'm not going to get a club for at least until Christmas, you know, until season's kicked off, and, you know, there's going to be no money left in the pot. Nobody wants to sign anybody, and this, that, and the other. You know, I'm like 30 years old. Who's going to want to sign me? And that's just me just playing mind games to myself and forgetting actually that I'm still young and you've achieved a lot, and you actually would be of value to certain clubs around the UK. So yeah, that was it. And I managed to come back, but it was a very difficult and anxious is my word. It was an anxious time, because, you know, if anything, well, if it's taught me anything, it's just to kind of value, you know, how lucky I am to be doing what I'm doing, you know. And so I'm very thankful that I could actually get another club, because I know so many people throughout this period have been laid off and lost jobs and lost a huge amount of things. So yeah, it was a tough decision, but I'm back and I love it. I'm playing rugby with a smile on my face. Newcastle's not a bad city either. The people are great and welcoming with open arms. So yeah, it's good.
And like I was saying, I think it is so important for people to know that you can decide to leave somewhere. If you're not happy, you can do something about it. And I think it was interesting you saying that you were concerned that maybe nobody was going to kind of want you or whatever. and you're kind of forgetting about your talent and your career. And I also think it was interesting you mentioned kind of your rugby CV. And I think again, like doing things to change it up a little bit is also fine, and it's also fine to explore other avenues. I think that's really, really interesting. I think that will be kind of really inspiring for young people to hear as well. So obviously, in terms of this kind of event and the people watching, they'll likely be kind of young people, maybe those interested in a career in sport, or maybe those who aren't, but are just kind of interested in what a career in sport kind of has to offer. So we're looking at careers. We're also thinking about well-being. So I can imagine, obviously, playing rugby in particular, I imagine is very physically draining, but also mentally draining too. I know you said that it had been a particularly difficult year with the lockdown, and also the changing clubs and things like that. How would you say you kind of mentally prepare yourself for a game? What kind of things do you do before the game to kind of get yourself prepared?
Well, yeah, exactly right in terms of the mental aspects of it. There's a huge bubble kind of surrounding sport at the moment with regards to mental health, because it's a very, very difficult industry. Although from the outside, people think, it's, all flowers and rainbows, let's say. It's difficult. Once you're in it, it's difficult. And we are in our own bubble, and essentially we're not in the real world, but we still kind of have real world problems,
Yeah.
So I actually have had a life coach for 5 years. So he has played a huge role in my life.
Amazing.
So he's called Tim Martin. He worked out of Harley Street in London, and he has just been amazing for me. And in terms of just neutral, no nonsense.
Yeah.
Tell me how it is, because I go to my parents and they're like, "Oh, Lisa, you're fine. Come here, like you're the best." And go,
Yeah.
You have nothing wrong. You're the best. You had the best game ever. Or in terms of life decisions, it's just been great for me. But in terms of like getting up for a game, that's easy. That's easy, and I think players know when to retire, when they've had enough is when that becomes difficult.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the easy part. From Monday to Friday, we're building up to this war of nutrition on a Saturday, let's say. Just two teams just joining into battle, and let's see who comes out on top, which is great. I love that. And but I have certain things that I have to tick off during the week. So I have a nutrition plan, and I have certain things that I do on a Friday before a game. After the game's on a Thursday, then I have to alter my weeks. But I'm quite OCD like that. I like to plan.
Yeah.
And I think that's just come from from a young age, having to, like I said, I went into rugby from a young age, and I had to, I was chucked in at the deep end, and I had to prepare myself properly for what I was doing. And it's just developed over the years with outside help, especially from the likes of Tim, my life coach. He's been massive for me in terms of my prep and planning and this, that, and the other. So music is a big factor as well on game day and the night before.
Because I always think that, like, I think with any sport, obviously there's kind of the possibility for injury and things like that. But I think particularly with rugby, and I think you've just kind of mentioned it there and touched on it there, but like how do you get injuries, whatever, and then just go and how do you psych yourself up to go back out into the sport and into a game where you're inevitably going to do it again? Like, how is it just your pure love of the sport that kind of keeps you going?
I say it's funny because you're asking me this question about how I do it, and I don't actually know.
Yeah,
it's just barbaric, isn't it? It's probably the toughest sport in the world, to be honest, in terms of collisions. You look at your NFLs and stuff like that, and ice hockeys and stuff. They have big collisions, but they're all padded up and looked after with helmets and stuff like that. You know, what we actually put our bodies through is just barbaric. But it is the love. It is the love of the game, and it's the love of actually representing something and standing out on that field with your man to your right and the man to your left, and just going, right, I've got you, you've got me, let's go.
Yeah.
Trying to get the better of the opposition. And, you know, I think the guys that really make it in sport and make it far are the ones that have just got this deep ambition to win and just want to be the best, want to better themselves. And that's really how it is, because when it comes, as you get closer to game day, you know, your training obviously fades off and you get a bit more relaxed time. And then obviously it comes to the Saturday and you're a lot fresher and you're ready to go again. So, you know, our conditioning team are very good at managing our bodies and making sure that, you know, we are okay. But like I say, I played Gloucester 10 days ago now, and you know, I smashed my rib to pieces. I had to leave this pitch. Thankfully, we didn't have a game over the weekend, so I could rest, and I had a week off to rest and get myself right. But you know, they're not 100% right now. But when it comes to Saturday, you just switch off, and you've got that much adrenaline that you just forget. And you can't go into a game of rugby thinking, right, I'm injured, or I've got this, I've got that. Otherwise, you will then get injured.
Yeah.
So it has all got to be, you know, 100 mile an hour, 100% buy-in. And, you know, you just fight it out and you scrap it out with your teammates and you enjoy your wins.
Amazing. Like I said, I think kind of that you clearly have such a love for the sport, and it seems like that kind of almost carries you through. Obviously there'll be a lot of kind of physical rehab and things that you'll kind of have to go through, but I think that kind of like you said, that ambition to win and that genuine passion for the sport must kind of massively help. So if we kind of tie that back in then with kind of thinking about the young people who are watching, so they've just listened to your story, your journey, how you've got to this point. And do you have kind of any tips for anyone who is watching and considering a career in sport? Maybe some kind of tips for things that they can do kind of at that kind of starting point?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it all depends on where you are, you know, in your life at that time. You know, I'm good friends with one of the coaches at the schools here. I used to play with him at Northampton, and his lad is 12. He's just broken his leg. And as soon as I saw that, you know, I got on the phone to him and I said, look, let's have a chat with Joshie. He wasn't available, so I said, well, leave him a message, let him know that he'll be fine. His leg will be fine. He's in good hands. We'll get physio. He'll be back out there before he knows it. And don't let this distract him from getting back out there. You know, it happens all the time within sport. People get injured. And my biggest advice to people is to actually, you know, if they're in a similar position to me and they love the sport, then that's great. Then go for it, and do not be put off by the adversity, the setbacks that come with it. You know, if you don't make your first team and you have to play for the second, then you just make sure you're working harder than the player who's in position for that first team. You know, if you're a centre and you want that centre's position in that first team, you've got to make yourself better than him. And how are you going to do that? You're going to have to work harder than him, because, you know, hard work actually can outrun just talent. You know, if you're talented and you don't really put the work in and you become complacent, the person beneath you that's working hard, seeing how you're behaving, seeing how you're acting, is going to at some point come and take that position. So do not be put off by setbacks. You know, just keep working hard, keep doing your studying, keep watching rugby, and I'm sure that eventually you'll get there.
Amazing. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today. That's been absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure that the students will have found it really useful. I know I have, and there's absolutely no chance that I'm going to be playing rugby anytime soon. But I found it Really, really interesting, really useful. And there's definitely some kind of actionable things there, like you were saying at the end, kind of as long as you've got that genuine passion for it and you're prepared to work hard, then there's no reason you can't kind of get to where you want to be.
Ultimately, all it comes down to, Jessica, that is ultimately what it comes down to. You know, if you're really passionate about something and you love it and you work hard, there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to, you know, be a force within that career.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much for coming on. And I hope everyone who's listening has kind of enjoyed this this session. I know that I have, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the event as well.